to YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, LinkedIn, and Facebook. We need to set up the Discord stream. Thanks for reminding us. But not for today. So welcome everybody. Tonight's session's going to be about cultivating consciousness in a way that makes you feel awesome and empowered all the time, unshakable. For those of you who were here this morning, it's a similar theme, but we'll look at it from different angles. We'll meditate on it more. We'll cultivate it and strengthen it. All right, so I'm going to ring the bell. For those of you who are on the live stream, welcome. Let's begin with this meditative experience of entering the temple, clearing our mind, getting in the state that's ready to cultivate and transform. I bow to enter the temple, this sacred time inside myself. I imagine a world where everyone has deep inner peace and compassion for all beings, and I dedicate this time to me living that, being that, and helping others to be that. As each one of us bows, as each one of us enters, find inspiration, love, wisdom, and peace within yourself. There's profound insights within yourself. There are people throughout history where goodness transformed them in beautiful, profound ways. Wisdom has been passing from generation to generation for tens of thousands of years. May we be a part of that chain, continue to pass that goodness on. Breathe deep and peacefully, shifting your state of mind.
Now.
So welcome everyone. One of the traditions we have here are to begin our sessions with an intention setting. So I invite you to just look within and ask yourself, why are you here? If you're new here and just curious, my wish for you is this session brings you peace and happiness. It shifts the way you think about yourself and life in a way that empowers you and makes life more easy and more loving and more kind. If you're a regular to cultivation and meditation, perhaps as you looked in, you saw greater mindfulness, greater compassion. I invite you to look a little deeper or create a little more grand intention. That part of you that wants enlightenment for all beings, or that part of you that has been thinking about some kind of change or transformation or shift, and allowing yourself to envisage having that shift, that ease, that transformation. So let's have the intention that you make the most of tonight, that it's wonderful for you, and also that the things you benefit, the things that you cultivate that benefit you, they make people around you happier, more loving, more easeful. Perhaps even helps others to actively become more peaceful, more happy. And together we make the world a more beautiful place. So let's take a seat. So thank you everyone for being here. I can see on the live stream people who are here. Ekis just says, hey yo, and with a cool emoji. He's just come back from his first walking meditation. That's cool to hear. I know you've meditated with us hundreds of times, so interesting to see that you've explored walking meditation today. For anyone who's new to my sessions or this temple, I hope that everybody feels that while I hold love and kindness and wisdom as sacred, different practices or different beliefs, I'm not really attached to any of them. I just want our minds and our hearts to be as wonderful as possible. And while there are some meditations and practices that I will strongly advocate are wonderful, I also think as a community we can explore different ways to bring ourselves joy and happiness, whether that's walking meditation or singing songs that fill us with love, or stillness sitting meditation, or sitting meditation that you practice kindness to everybody, or saying the positive qualities that you're becoming, or reading self-development books, spending time with people you admire, that you look up to, or any other way of living life great. I am excited for all of them. Now, tonight's topic, I want to look at what it is to practice mindfulness. Now, I want to be clear that people say that mindfulness, and they describe many different things, quite similar, but they describe it differently. So as I say, what is it to practice mindfulness? This is just one perspective, and I hope that this perspective is very helpful for each of you. Now, for anyone who's new, people watching the video sometime in the future, new people to the temple, mindfulness, when people use that word in day-to-day terms, is like being aware of the people around you, aware of the things around you. If you're in an antique store, you'd be mindful not to bump anything. If you were talking with people, particularly if you knew someone was in a state of mind where they were sensitive, you would be mindful to speak kindly and carefully. So mindfulness is this word that's used for like external awareness. And in meditative groups, people use mindfulness to talk about awareness within. You know, if you stop and think of all the thoughts you had today and all the feelings you had today, there's hundreds, thousands. And if you were to imagine them metaphorically, maybe you could think of it as like being in a store with thoughts about this and thoughts about that, or being in a garden with beautiful flowers and some weeds over here and some big strong trees and some project you're working in over there. So just as I mentioned being mindful in an antique store, you could think of being mindful in your own mind. What are the things that you can engage with that make you enjoy life more, that make you a better person, a kinder person? And likewise, you can probably think there are some parts of your mind or some ways of thinking that hurt, that cause upset, that upset people around you. So while we're being mindful, we try to see the map of our mind and navigate it carefully. Some people, when they have the insight that they're able to do that, they realize that beforehand, it was like they were walking around in their own mind with their eyes closed, just bumping into anything, just not even thinking of where they were going. My first meditation teacher described it to me as it's like waking up when you're not choosing your thoughts. It's almost like you're in a daydream or asleep. And then when you wake up and begin to navigate your mind, you approach it completely differently. Now, the thing that I'd like to emphasize tonight is moving through your mind mindfully is a profound thing. It makes life, well, we get to choose how we are in life. So people choose ease and peace and joy, or at the very least, painful states of mind or unhelpful states of mind. People don't choose that. They notice the kinds of thoughts that lead to that, and they'll come back to their breath instead, or they'll cultivate kindness and understanding and ease instead, or they will just choose something else instead. So mindfulness is this superpower that really can transform our whole life, our whole perspective, our feelings all day. You may have noticed I said navigating our minds, but then I talk about feelings. I guess when I say mind, I'm meaning our whole consciousness, the words we think, the ideas we contemplate, the emotions that we put our attention into, the emotions that we unconsciously put our focus onto. The whole of experience is something that you can learn to navigate. So in terms of ways I've seen mindfulness described, I think the way I just described it was kind of middle of the road. I've seen some people describe it without that description of like learning to look and choosing how to move carefully. It's kind of, they describe it as just having your eyes open just a little, just looking a little more, and like when there's worrying things, you can calm them down a little bit. If you've fallen into the bramble patch in your mind, instead of carefully getting out and moving around, you kind of just wallow there a little bit, aware that you're doing it. Some may even argue that partial mindfulness in some situations is not even helpful compared to unmindfulness. So there's levels of how awake are you, how intentional are you. So the way I described it, which I was trying to be empowering, was that you can choose where to guide your mind. But actually what I hope to achieve tonight is something even more empowering. I invite you to think of yourself if every thought and feeling was something that you chose. That no matter what happened, no matter what you have done or where you are or what's going on, you have chosen a sense of peace and strength and calm within yourself. Or perhaps peace, strength and calm is not what you choose. Perhaps you choose that you feel light and hilarious and loving. Or perhaps I don't even need to put words on it, but I'd like you to imagine if you were going to choose your state of mind, your state of being, what it would be like. And there's probably not one answer. You might want to feel hilarious sometimes and relaxed at other times and excited at other times. But I'm hoping if you imagine always being in a state of mind that you've chosen, you'll envisage a set of beautiful feelings. So what's the difference between what I first said with mindfulness of being aware and navigating compared to what I would hope we will contemplate and cultivate tonight? I think it's best that I describe that by sharing a story. So right now I'm sitting next to Amaza. She's not in VR, she's here in real life. And we've been meditating together for many years. And when there's stresses or when there's things with pressure, she would respond with her older reactions, which were kind of stressful, and then she'd meditate and she'd be like, I'm calm. And she thought of mindfulness as this ability to move into a state of mind when she reacted to things. And I said to her, well, in one moment, as you're breathing and your focus is just on the breath, there's no reaction to what's going on. Or maybe you thought of something scary, so it's sort of like a reaction to your own mind. But then as you breathe, you bring yourself into stillness. When you first start, that might take a few breaths. When you've practiced for a while, you can glimpse the stillness basically instantly. So if when you think about your mind, you think of this instant stillness and ease, rather than something that you can ease yourself or make the harder times a bit easier to deal with, you envisage yourself and your approach to life as enlightened, as pure peace, as pure wisdom. So when you think about harder situations and how you're going to deal with them, instead of thinking, oh, it'll be hard and I will be able to bring myself some calm to deal with it, you're like, oh, how would I choose to be there? Okay, that thing's happening and I choose to be perfectly centered. So I hope some of you can see that just by shifting the way you think of yourself, the way you then think about how you're going to react, how you're going to be, how you're going to feel, can be vastly different. If you're totally new to meditation or mindfulness, you might not see the difference. That's okay. Just know that our minds are amazing, and as you focus more and more on empowerment and peace, you have more and more of that. And just like being a painter, as you get better and better at painting, with little details, you can draw a border, you can frame things in certain ways that really make the picture pop. Or as a writer, writing, just slightly changing the words, can wildly change the feeling of what you write. And the same is true with your own mind. Not just with the thoughts that you choose from moment to moment or the way that you move in your feelings, but also the way you think about your own mind, the way you navigate your own mind. So my real intention here is to make every one of you amazing navigators of your own consciousness. So I'm just going to check if anyone's written on the live stream, and anyone who's here, if you have a question or a thought you'd like to share, I'll give you a moment to think about it. I also really want you to know that this session is for you. I want what I just said to sound doable and real. If any of it sounded a little lofty or not really clear what I meant, please ask. I mean, there's no point in me saying it if it's not crystal clear what I meant. I know we're all coming from different backgrounds, words have different connotations, so I want this to be awesome for you. So I'll give everyone a moment to think about it while I just check. Alright. Chimmy's giving us a thumbs up. Chimmy, great to have you here. Alright, thumbs up from Bhutan to everybody here. It's an honor to have you. Thank you for being with us. Alright, does anyone have any thoughts or questions from what I've said so far? Okay, so what I just said, maybe it sounds good in theory, but then how do we do that? You go out into life and you've got your old habits that just kick into place, and the way you think about things and your emotional patterns of what you do on this chapter or that chapter. So then how do we do what I was just saying? And it's a practice. But like many skills, if you practice in the right way, you can get much better at that skill. I'm not sure if any of you have ever been to any workshops that are about public speaking, but I remember when I was first exposed to that, if someone had told me, hey, just feel comfortable in front of a crowd, I would not have known how to do that at all. But I read this book about self-transformation that said, practice being amazing at what you want. Imagine being amazing. And I didn't just jump up in front of a crowd and like be amazing, but in my imagination every day, I did it. And I imagined just feeling totally comfortable and loving talking with people. So I actually started thinking of that in terms of like parties and making friends. And I got really good at just feeling great wherever I went. So that was imagining how nice it would feel to be comfortable everywhere. And then I learned that comfortable feeling. But I also mentioned workshops. I used to go to youth development workshops where a lot of young people don't feel good talking to a group or even a large group. And over a few days, they had us talk to a group of 4 people and then talk in a group of 8. And then eventually they had all of us talking in front of hundreds of people. And just bit by bit, letting us practice being better and better with big jumps, but lots of encouragement. It transformed how we were when we thought about communication. So there's just one example of how massively we can change our emotional habit by practicing in a certain way. And likewise, when we're thinking about retraining our mind, some of you may already practice mindfulness, and I invite you to imagine what I was saying earlier, perfect, unshakable mindfulness. What you would choose if you're choosing in every moment. What it would be like, no matter what happened, that you just are centered. You look at the thing and you choose what's the most beneficial thing to say or do right now. And just rehearse how good that would feel. How beautiful, easeful, empowering that would feel. Until those positive feelings have completely taken over. Now, if some of you are new to meditation and that sounds totally far out, some of you may have vivid imaginations and you are able to imagine it and practice it. Great, go for it. And if it just sounds so far out you can't even imagine someone being like that, well, then you get to imagine the best version of you that you can imagine now. What would it be like for you to be able to calm yourself down whenever you get upset or angry? What would it be like for you to notice what you're thinking and be able to ask yourself, what would be a helpful thought now? You could practice noticing as feelings start to happen and steering more beautifully into the good feelings. Or if you notice a not nice feeling, just learning to watch more carefully. Maybe in the past when you have a not nice feeling, you then think, here I go again, and just guide yourself into the not nice feeling. Just learning to see that is enough to be able to say, when I start to do that, I'm going to come to my breath. Or I'm going to think of the people I love. Oh, my head-up display has just given me a red circle with a line through it. Does anyone know what that is?
Same here.
It's trying
I've
to be
never seen that
blocked.
before.
It's to kick someone.
Well, I'm happy with everybody in the room, so we don't need to kick anybody. Thanks for the explanation. Cool. All right. Oh, there's a lot of people chatting on the live stream. Lauren asked, is this VR chat? Yes, we are here in VR chat. Let me just change the view so you can see the whole temple. Here we go. We meet here many times a week. You're always welcome to come and join. Or Midnight, you're getting some reverb. And then Lauren also said, it was a complete business transformation with the understanding that you may not always know what it is. Lauren, I guess you wrote that a little while ago, so I'm not sure what that was in response to. We're happy to have you here. Love you to explain what that was about if you'd like, the complete business transformation. And any other questions or positive things you'd like to share, or hesitations or struggles around mindfulness or mental development, please bring them. These sessions are for you. Okay, so let me just pause and we can all take a deep breath. And again, I want to ask if anyone has any questions. But before I do, I want you to take a moment to envisage yourself always aware of your consciousness. And not just aware, but choosing how you want to feel. Choosing your state of mind. Choosing what you're going to focus on. Imagine shaping yourself so that life is wonderful. If that seems too abstract, you could ask yourself, well, what's the thing that I often do in life? And then you imagine being there and just imagine how you want to feel there, how you want to think there. Sometimes when I ask you to imagine yourself, how you'd be, people kind of limit themselves to, I could imagine being a little bit better or a little bit like that. They're kind of in this little bubble around where they are now. So you could ask yourself, like, what would a superhero do in that situation, or a saint, or someone you really admire? And let yourself just really imagine the ideal that you would be if you could be anything. And when it comes to cultivating change, sometimes we can see it straight away and we can feel it. And even then, it can take time to spend in that feeling, to spend in that mindset to transform us. Sometimes we can't feel it to start. It's just an idea that's just distant from where we are. So as you're thinking about being your empowered, awesome self, try to feel it, try to be awesome and embody it. But if you can't, I still encourage you to set that intention. Imagine your inner imagination, your subconscious, is creating it anyway, even if you can't feel it yet. And you may also find some little tricks to be able to imagine being a different way. What would it be like to do a little dance while you think about it? Or to say to yourself, I'm confident there, or I'm awesome there. Or what would it be like to imagine how someone else does it? So I'll give everybody just a moment and see what you'd like to share or what you'd like to ask. So if you're very new to meditation and mental training, great. If you have a question you think might be basic, I welcome that. Or if you've been meditating a long time or reading lots of different coaching and philosophy books and you have a very intricate question, I welcome that. I'll try and tie that back to a way that is relatable for everybody. So does anyone have anything they'd like to share or ask about what I had to say? Saw a space?
Hi. Why does it seem, I could be wrong, it seems as if the idea of mindfulness or like getting better always comes from pain or the suffering from living in this life. Because if like I'm content with my life, I never think about having to think about what I'm thinking about. If it just comes from pain is what I'm asking. I don't know if that's true or not.
Oh, it's a great question. So if you go back a few thousand years ago, people died at 30 and there was war and famine all around. There was a lot of suffering. And so people were really trying to find peace in amongst the chaos. And humanity's done an amazing job at bringing peace and bringing food and shelter to most people. So, yeah, life can be, for some, pretty comfortable a lot of the time. And yes, it's often true that when things are hard or painful, it's kind of a kick up the butt to, like, hey, I want to make things better. Absolutely. But you know, there are people when they're suffering, they don't think of that. They're just in the suffering. So you're actually pretty lucky if your response to suffering is to try and find how to make things better. But I don't want to just let it rest at just, hey, that's the only time we have this motivation. When people fall in love, sometimes they're inspired to make their life and themselves amazing. Just from the positivity. Sometimes people see a movie that's just so heart-touching that they come out and they decide they want to exercise and feel vibrant, or they decide they want to be loved to everyone at all times. I have a friend, he read one book about compassion and kindness. And reading that book, he said it opened his heart, and now everything he thinks and does is about love for all beings. So, yes, suffering can be a driver to develop mindfulness or to change things for the better, but it's not the only driver. And it also, suffering doesn't drive everybody to that. So my next thought when I think of this is, so then what do we choose that helps us? Do we want to only be motivated to meditate a lot when things are bad? I would hope not. I would hope that we also find motivation to cultivate goodness every day. For me, I want to be perfectly patient and loving and make everybody feel wonderful. Not just for myself and the people around me, but I actually want a world where everybody's like that. And when I imagine a world of beautiful kindness, and I imagine a world where every school teaches every person how to be the master of their minds, and every business starts the day with people getting in great states of mind to work together, I see that the world has a long way to go. And that drives me to want to practice it, want to cultivate it. I hope you can find the things that also drive you. Perhaps it's people that you care about, that you want to bring beautiful peace or wisdom to. Perhaps there's some vision of a better world, or peace on earth, or something that you know that you cultivating yourself in a way that's good enough that it spreads will have some impact. Or perhaps you even want to try and envisage how you could have an epic impact. Did I answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
I think it's a really good question. Looking at our motivations, understanding historically why do some self-development groups seem to focus on suffering, why we don't have to make that the focus. I think it's very, very good question. Hey, welcome. Solarpunk, you have a question or a comment?
Yes, is it okay to bring up the first noble truth that Siddhartha spoke about
Let's hear it.
regarding what Sora Space was speaking up? Yes, the first noble truth that Siddhartha spoke of was that that life is suffering. In all things we hold dear, there is change and separation. All things are impermanent. And then the other three noble truths that
Can
he
I
taught, which
interject?
is the whole of Buddhism. Yes.
So, I've heard it translated in a way that I've found more empowering. Life is dukkha, is the original. I mean, it's not life is, but dukkha was the word, not suffering. So, dukkha actually means things are changing, and there are causes and conditions that could cause us to suffer. And if you think of that as the first noble truth, things are always changing, things will never be as you expect. I find that much more accurate and empowering than life is suffering. The second noble truth is there's a reason why we suffer, and we can end suffering. If the first one is life is suffering, then the third one doesn't make sense. So this is why I had to interject. I really feel it's important to that
Thank you.
life is changing all the time, and it's so nuanced. It's always different than what our minds are thinking. So being present with things rather than attachment and craving and expectation actually can end suffering. Soros, you asked why does mindfulness often seem pitched from a place of suffering? And I said, well, thousands of years ago, there was death and famine and war everywhere. And Siddhartha, the original Buddha, that's who I was thinking of when I said it. He was coming from a place where when he left his palace and was confronted with the day-to-day life of most people, he couldn't believe how much suffering he saw everywhere, and he wanted to help everyone out of it. Solarpunk, I know you were saying something beautiful, and my one interjection to the first point, I kind of jumped on in. Please reiterate it, or say more of what you're going to say, or yeah.
Yes, much appreciation. And yes, I was just about to bring up the second and third noble truths are about how to deal with that by finding out. Well, we have the dukkha, which is unsatisfactoriness or stress or these other stressors, and we deal with these things by finding out. Oh well, why do we stress, or is there dissatisfaction with certain things we deal with? Well, the Siddhartha taught that's because we cling to these things, whether we are clinging to positive things or whether we are clinging to negative things. If we cling too much, it's always distressing when they end, if it's something we like, and otherwise, if it's something negative, obviously it's just not a state we want to keep our mind in. And that was really the whole concept. And in life, when you are born, it means you're going to grow old and get sick and die eventually. So how do you deal with that? How do you face that truth? And it all comes back to that in the end as well. Towards the end of our life, we have to skillfully face that. But so from everything from mindfulness in our present moment, and whether we choose to be boundless friendliness or equanimity, where we're just calm-minded and cool, it all helps with addressing that concept. So I just wanted to fill in for the rest. Other than that, I really like Neo's description there of why we practice the mindfulness meditation and such, and how just how empowering that is. Oh, and I see little creatures.
Thank you.
I guess another reason that I jumped in on the definition of the First Noble Truth is, if you're defining your worldview on life is suffering, sure, you can then think, hey, and it's about ending the suffering, and that's liberating, and then the Eightfold Path is like making every aspect of your life wonderfully amazing, beautiful. When you know that, that's great. But I've met a lot of people who see, the first foundation of this is that life is suffering, and it's not. I feel fine. Like, it's kind of a downer. And like Soros was saying, like, if he's feeling fine, where does that fit in? And so I guess I think it's so important for people to empower their mind and to be able to deal with whatever happens. And so the way we phrase it, the way we create it is it's also very important. So yeah, that's why another reason, as well as the analytical truth of it, is that we can end suffering, so it's not suffering. I also think it's just good in terms of how we communicate that life is always changing and life's not as we expect. So learning to be able to move through life in the most empowered, happy way is a real gift that we can give ourselves. Some of you may remember that I have said many times that I'm actually really not into any religion. I know we're talking about the Buddha. When I think about him, it's a priest. It's a prince who left the palace, and he saw people suffering, and he tried to make things better. To me, that's just a great person. And in this morning session, I said that I spent a decade being devoutly religious, practicing all the religions of the world, trying to find what I could learn from all the cultures. And these days, I actually try to not have religious discussions. I find that human culture has evolved so much, and life is so practical now. I find it more beneficial to discuss things that are just real and present. If someone believes this and someone else believes that, and we don't have direct evidence and direct way to engage with it, how does that help us? I'm mentioning this because, we just talked about the Buddha a few times, Siddhartha, the prince. Earlier this morning in our session, somebody mentioned they had just changed from one religion to Buddhism. And while I love Buddhism and I'm sure it will have so much to teach them, I personally try to not think of isms and not put wisdom into this box or that box. Wherever there is wisdom, it's good for all humans. And any box that separates us, I think we should be trying to dissolve those boxes. If somebody talks about an enlightened world where everyone is mindful and we are all following the Eightfold Path, and someone else talks about following the straight and narrow path and creating heaven on earth, if the person who said those ideas in the first place is different, I don't think that should matter. We should all be working together to make that heaven on earth. We should be freeing our mind that we're able to choose in every moment and start again, or to be born again, start afresh. And likewise, the more we are able to communicate truths in a way that we have different ways of communicate it to reach anybody, no matter where they come from, that's a really important thing to do for the people, for the world, for human culture. That little rant I just went on was kind of in response to this person's questions this morning, who's just come and left. So I hope she joins us again. Soros, I would like to ask you, if you feel like sharing, what are some ideas or motivations that you could have that would drive you for cultivating mindfulness or compassion?
I would say it changes throughout life. The motivation, of course, like I said earlier in the beginning, for myself, it was suffering, which led me to seek changes. But more so, it's to try to cultivate that type of wisdom in other people. I thoroughly enjoy uh, seeing the lights come on inside of someone when they realize the magnificence of themselves, because it was such an important process to my life in such a positive way that I know I'll only be able to help other people if I continue to master it within myself.
Wait. I just want to
That's
reiterate what you said, that you thoroughly enjoy
Mhm.
seeing the lights come on in others. That was just so beautifully said. Thank you so much.
Indeed.
But for me, that's it for now.
I know that you have been extremely fit and strong in your life, getting to a point of excellence in strength and prowess for part of your work or your career. I also like to imagine being like a mental ninja. Like, how strong can I make my mind? How powerful or amazing can it be that it can handle every situation beautifully? And that idea in itself is another thing that I find inspiring or uplifting. Maybe that might also add to something for you. But you said bringing that light or realization to others is that you thoroughly enjoy it. I mean, there are people around us constantly, so there's hundreds of motivations a day for each person you think of or each person you see that could lift you up to more enlightenment. So it sounds like you've already got something beautiful going on. So we've been talking about cultivating mindfulness. Just as a side note, I'm not sure how much you've practiced metta or compassion meditation, but the practice of wishing peace, happiness, freedom from suffering, enlightenment to others, and practicing that you feel that just all the time.
I like little children. Can I still be Buddhist?
I'm just gonna be right back.
Speaking of Dukkha,
Oh, they've stopped, hopefully.
No, I'm so sorry. Those are my friends. I'll go talk to them.
I'm sure if you just join us, they'll listen. It's fine.
Okay. I do apologize.
Thanks. I'm glad you come back. So what were we saying? Oh yeah, compassion meditation. I had a very profound or very clear experience. About a month ago, I was saying to the group, we often do compassion meditation here, but then this time a month ago, I really emphasized when you're going down the street, just wishing happiness and smiles to everybody. And I said that a bunch of times as part of that day. And then for the rest of the week, as I was riding my bike around the neighborhood, every time I rode past someone, I just had the biggest smile and I just felt this love and well-wishing everywhere I went. And I thought it was such a stark example of the things that we say, the brain programs we give ourselves, how they happen. I hadn't said that repeatedly wanting to emphasize it in myself. It was just a happy accident. And I invite you all to do the same thing. As you're describing positivity to others, try and say it in a way that would be easy for them, and then see it happening to yourself. And even when you're not saying it to others, as you're saying it to yourself, I am cultivating mindfulness. I cultivate it in a way that's easeful and makes everything more beautiful. Or whatever you want to improve in yourself. I'm able to make other people's lives better. I'm considerate and kind to other people. I know that my impact on the world affects others, so I try to make that great. I become more mature and more wise and more powerful every day. Or whatever you want to say to yourself, I just invite you to say things to yourself in a way that feels great. And the example I was giving is going along the street, just having smiles for everybody. It was so doable that it just happened automatically. So I invite you to try and think of ways that you can think of how you're going to be in a way that's just doable. For example, when I see the sky, I take a deep breath and feel peace. If you say that a bunch of times, you'll notice every time you see the sky, it triggers you to dive into peace. So I invite you to really set up helpful, easy thoughts. So I just wanted to reiterate something I was saying earlier. It was meant for someone in particular, and they left just for a moment. So I was saying how in Buddhism, there is the eightfold path, walking the path to make each aspect of your life as good as possible, again and again good. And there's also this idea that as we become mindful, as we watch our mind, we can release all our old habits, all our old emotional patterns, and choose fresh every day to be the most enlightening person, or a bodhisattva, a being that cultivates goodness and shines it to everybody. And I hope every one of us has a glimpse or a vivid idea of an enlightened world, and we're living in a way to bring happiness and peace to everybody, to care for everyone, and no matter where they're at, to help them find purpose in life and to find ease and wisdom and goodness so that everybody's helping each other. Now, I could say basically the same thing of we're working to create heaven on earth, and it's a straight and narrow path we have to walk to heaven, and we become born again so that we can walk that path. You know, it's the same idea. One of them has more teachings explicitly historically, in all the different movements. Now there's so many different teachings on how to live well. So I guess what I'm saying is that if you can take the ideas and live them and talk about them without tying it to the philosopher who started it, then you can help people who are caught in that philosophy, or caught in that religion, or caught in that cult. You can help them focus on just what are the really good bits that they have to live and share. And you can also help them to see that those same good things are in other cultures. And you don't even need to be in a culture. You can just be a good person. All right. Does anyone else have... Actually, I have something I wanted to say. Let's step out of the topics we were just talking about and back to the theme of tonight, which is cultivating mindfulness and an empowered mind. And, you know, I talked about being able to craft a state of mind that is powerful and helpful. And then it's a practice, so you can rehearse it and think about what that would be like. But still, that might sound abstract to people. And also, mental rehearsal isn't the only practice. If when you go to practice it, you're still thinking and in the moods of other things, the thing you're practicing will be the state of mind of where you're practicing. And yes, you set your subconscious, you set your inner creativity to make it better, and it will get better. But there are tricks to actually change how you feel, to change your state of mind. So combined with envisaging a mindful state of mind, there are things like meditation, being able to shift your state of mind and then get into that state of mind and feel it and be it. And many people find that while they're meditating, the amazing peace or strength they feel is like bigger than they were expecting. Come to you in just a second, Dawn. And as well as meditation, there's role playing. Perhaps you with some supportive friends could play out a scenario where instead of having to react in the moment, you're acting your most enlightened self. And so you get to practice what it'd be like. So Dawn, I saw you had a question or a comment.
Actually, I'm just.
I think Midnight
I
might
think
have.
Midnight might have.
Or is that just an echo?
So.
No, yeah, I did.
We're just.
It's... Hold on a second.
Yeah, Dawn,
Okay,
can you
it's
go
better now.
first? Midnight, maybe
I
you could
did it.
mute. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. That's better. Actually, no, I'm good. I was just... I didn't have a
Raising your
question.
hand in excitement.
Something like that.
Yeah, awesome. Cool. Midnight, did you have something you wanted to ask or say?
Yeah, something I've been contemplating about is, should you feel guilty when you're happy? Because I have a real sense of, like, guilt.
Can I ask, should you feel guilty when what?
Should you feel guilty when what?
When you're happy.
Mm.
Or should I feel guilty when I'm happy? Like, it's a real sense of empathy, and I didn't come from like the best background and the best upbringing, and it just feels like the more happier I become, I still feel guilty for anything bad I've done in the past. It just seems like the happier I become, it doesn't seem fair to them, to the people I've ever hurt in my life, if I'm happy and they're not.
1 second. Hey guys, we're live streaming, so I'm going to kick you if you don't sit down. Like when you're in front of the camera, it's like hundreds of people you're in the way of. So if you want to listen and make your life better, please grab a seat. Otherwise, I'm going to have to kick you out. I would love you to join. This will make your life way better. So, yeah, your choice. All right, Midnight. I think that's a great question. And
Nobody thinks what you're doing is good.
I mean, they were entertaining each other. But yeah, I hope they also
Well,
will
they weren't
begin
entertaining me.
Me either. But yeah, hopefully they'll take some time to think about their impact on all the other people. So I also went through the same thing. I was able to cultivate wild happiness, and I got into this place where I felt great. And then somehow I was like, hey, I'm not doing enough to enlighten the world. I need to be more motivated. And I started meditating on all the starving kids and all the war and like really feeling the suffering in the world, all the animals that are being slaughtered right now, like really feeling all of that. And I was hoping that would drive me to be more motivated and more enlightening. But guess what? It didn't. It just made me feel terrible. And it made me a much less functional human being. Now you might be like, what the hell am I talking about? What's this got to do with guilt? I took what you were saying to the extreme. And then while I had then cultivated all this suffering, and I was in there for quite a while. And as I was trying to like think about feeling good again, I was like, I can't be happy until every person's happy. I'm here for everybody else. And then it hit me one day. If just one other person in the world had that same idea, then we'll never be happy. And I was like, okay, yeah, that doesn't really work. So I spun it around and thought, well, actually, my peace and my happiness is what I can give to others. So if anything, I would encourage you to cultivate the most blissful states you can, beautiful peace and joy. And also cultivate how can you share that with people while they're hurting? And that takes some practice, finding how to talk in a way that's calm and loving while you're joyful, knowing that you see and understand them. but instead of going into where they are, you're helping bring them up. Sure, that takes some practice, but from my experience, it's profoundly better for you and massively better for everybody else too. Yes, there's a lot going on in the world, and hopefully we're all motivated to make things better. There may be some particular causes that are important to you that you may want to do something for or donate to, or some other action to make it better. That's great. But in terms of how you feel, I wish for you peace and bliss and happiness, and that you can then give that to everyone around you. Or if there's someone who's in a really dark place on the other side of the world and you're thinking of them, maybe you'll write a letter to one of them that sends them some love or some peace or some hope.
Oh yeah, a friend of mine's one of her spiritual cats died, and I'm being there for her right now. She's gonna write something beautiful and wonderful, and I actually shared the live stream to her so that way I can, figure out want to join. But right now she wants some peace, so hopefully she'll see the dream later. But I get it. I get what it means to be like an online entertainer and live streamer, to be there for people around the world. And
And I hope when your friend sees the live stream or they think about that you shared it with them, that they know that you care about them and you want them to feel peace or happiness or whatever it was you were wishing for them, and that that's a really beautiful thing.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, my life has changed exponentially, and I'm like wondering, I'm recalling my past. I'm like, wow, I've come from a lot, and I'm thinking, gee, what did I do to deserve all this abundance and peace?
I don't know if there is an answer. What did we do to deserve it? I try to ask myself the question is, how can I pass it on? Um, for those of you who've been to some of my sessions, you may have known when I was younger how much I'd been teased and had no friends for years, and was in a pretty sad, angry place. And we were listening to a song the other day, and it was a song that really touched me when I was about 14. And I was describing to my wife how she was like, what's the big deal about this song? And I said, well, there was something about it that showed me that there was beauty in the world. And suddenly I remembered how I felt at the time, and like the contrast of this beautiful song compared to where I was. And I started to cry. Not that I was so sad again, but just like, oh my God, I can't believe that my mind was in that place. And then I thought about the possibly millions of people around the world right now who are lonely, or who people are mean to them, or they've been cultivating anger or sadness. Maybe it's hundreds of millions. And it was so long since I'd really touched that pain, and to like feel it and like know that there are people out there experiencing something similar. It's just so important to me that mindfulness and like dedication to practicing mindfulness is something that we bring to the world. So I've been talking about that we can create this peace and this ability to choose. And I really want to say that, coming here and spending 2 hours to think about it and focus on it, that's 2 hours of your mind redecorating itself, creating different patterns. That's epic. And I want to invite you to spend some time every day, whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe half an hour meditating in the morning, half an hour meditating in positivity in the evening. And the more often you do it, the more momentum you get, the easier it becomes. It's like learning to ride a bike. If you ride really slowly to be careful, you actually have less balance. And if you practice awesomeness every day, it becomes more and more effortless and more beautiful. And I wish for every one of us to be inspired to do that, not just for ourselves, but for each other and for the world. Well, I wasn't expecting to share that story tonight at midnight. Thanks for bringing that out of me.
It's a great story, though. Thank you for sharing.
Yep.
Excuse me. I just want to. Me and my friends want to say we're sorry for what we did. We were just like bored out of our mind, and I'm so sorry.
Hey, I hope that you heard some things that make your life awesome, and you know that we care about you, and I really appreciate you saying sorry.
Okay. Have a great day.
You too. And the world is a better place. And the world. I don't know. I'm really touched by what just happened. For those of you on the live stream, we had some pranksters dancing around the temple, and yeah, they just came and apologized. So I hope that as they gave the apology, they were feeling care for all of you and thinking about it. And I hope that care and consideration keeps making their life better. All right. I think it's time for any last questions or comments, and then I'd like to guide a meditation. Anyone out there on the live stream have anything they'd like to share or ask? Or anybody here? All right, so I'm going to guide this meditation inspired by the themes we've covered today. So, if you're new to meditation, I just invite you to get really comfortable and think of it as like a guided daydream. When you're daydreaming, your imagination can become really powerful. And meditation is a way of having a powerful impact on yourself. So I invite everybody just to get comfortable, and when you're ready, you can close your eyes. We close our eyes because this is a practice in your own awareness. And notice what your mind just did in those 5 seconds of quiet. And then notice what your mind did in the last 10 seconds. Maybe you're thinking words. Maybe you're feeling how your posture. Maybe there's some emotions. Maybe you've got a visual imagination and you're seeing ideas. Maybe you're breathing. So I invite you to keep watching your mind in each moment. Just watching. What's your awareness doing? And some of you may notice that some thought carried your awareness away before you noticed it. And that's fine. As soon as you notice what your mind did. And we're just practicing being able to notice more and more constantly. Even if there's lots of thoughts, that's totally okay. Just trying to be aware of every moment as much as possible. Some of you may notice that as thoughts arise and you start to notice them, the thought dissolves. It's the power of awareness. It changes what's actually happening. And that's okay. Just keep watching. Watch what your awareness does. And now we're going to shift gears slightly. So I invite you to more intentionally breathe. So each breath is soothing and relaxing. So you're still watching the mind, but with each breath, everything just becomes a little more peaceful, a little more easy. And if your mind does something else, as soon as you notice, just keep watching every moment, just enjoying, practicing being aware of your awareness. Maybe some of you are already feeling a beautiful peace, stillness, spaciousness. Maybe some of you just had some little glimpses of a moment of peace, a moment of stillness. So, as you keep meditating, each breath you take, just keep watching your mind, practicing observing every moment of your mind. And if you can, also making each breath soothing, making your mind feel at ease, peaceful. Some of you may like to imagine if every breath you took you infused more ease, more peace. We're practicing, we're cultivating awareness of our own consciousness. And I infused in there ease and peace. And maybe the practice of always carrying that awareness. So if you're a goal-orientated person, you could think of this practice as creating or training your mind that your awareness is always more powerful than anything around you. It's also more powerful than any thoughts or emotions. And you may notice as you keep watching the mind with that intention in mind, your awareness starts to feel more powerful. We get what we practice. So as you keep watching your attention, aiming to watch in every moment, aiming to notice when your attention drifts and guide yourself back in, to guide yourself into a more powerful attention. Perhaps you could ask yourself, what's really the state of mind I want to cultivate, practice, and infuse each breath with more and more of that state of mind. Imagine this meditation is like a microcosm for the day. Every moment of the meditation that you infuse peace and awareness will be moments through your day where peace and awareness happens easily. The moments where you're in pure peace, where you are pure awareness. It's like moving through life in that enlightened state, being the jewel in each moment of the lotus. But the moments where your consciousness kind of drifts a little or gets distracted by something, just noticing as quick as possible and coming back into that awareness. Each moment of the meditation, each moment of our life. The next two parts of the meditation, we're just going to breathe. Put your attention in the breath and let each breath be stillness, ease, and peace. And then after that, we're going to let ourselves practice or imagine whatever state of mind or feeling or positive habit we choose to practice for today. So now, we're bringing our attention into the breath just to clear the mind, to make a blanker canvas, to let everything settle. So on the next breath, hear the breath. Then feel the breath expanding the lungs and letting go. Feel the breath coming in and out of the nose. Perhaps you can see the flow of the air going in and out of the nose. And so just time to let everything else settle. You're going to breathe. That point just inside the nostril, the sound of the breath, the feeling of the breath, the peaceful ease, the naturalness of just being. So just breathe, guiding your awareness. If you notice anything else in the mind, just let that be peace. And just come back to the breath more and more fully in the breath. Some of you are going deeper into stillness, more profound, expansive state of consciousness. If you are noticing activity of the mind, I invite you to make your focus on the glimpses of stillness. The millisecond here, the millisecond there, the few milliseconds there. You get what you focus on. As we all focus deeper, deeper into the stillness and ease of each moment of the breath. For the next few breaths, at the start of each in-breath, set the intention to be present for the whole of that breath. And again, at the start of each in-breath, setting that intention. Five more breaths. And for the next part of the meditation, I invite you to practice. Perhaps you'd like to practice an unshakable consciousness. Nothing external or internal can ever shake your moment-to-moment peace and bliss. Perhaps you like to practice love and kindness. Perhaps you want to practice something very specific, how you'd like to be confident in this situation at school, or this situation on the sports field, or this thing at work. Perhaps you'd like to appreciate how good it feels to see the lights come on when you share goodness with others. So for this next bit of the meditation, watch your awareness and just keep coming more with each breath into the thing that you choose to practice. Notice how you guide your mind. The moments where you feel it becoming more easy and more powerful, go more into that. The moments where it's not becoming clearer or easier, step away from those thoughts. Practice how good it would feel to easily and masterfully be the thing that you chose. And for the last two parts of the meditation, just going to have some time to remember today's discussion. Internalize any and every good idea that you had or that you heard. Remember the nice feelings from the meditation. Feel the love and the caring that you saw. So after you've taken some time to remember and re-strengthen today's session, then we're going to finish by just practicing that in each moment of our day, we'll be mindful. Each breath will infuse that ease, that awareness, and feel more empowered to choose. So I'll just give you a minute or two to remember today's session. Whichever thing stood out to you. Perhaps there was a shift in perspective that you'd like to continue that new perspective. Perhaps it's a way of thinking about yourself or your mind. Maybe it was just a nice idea, or the sky making a deep breath that brings you beautiful joy and peace. From the simple to the profound, just let yourself remember and reinforce everything from today. And then for the last part of the meditation, I invite you to imagine throughout the day, each breath you take, the start of each breath, you infuse peace, enlightenment, ease. Reminding yourself to be aware and to choose positive feelings. Reminding yourself to notice your mental and emotional patterns and choose and transform. Reminding yourself to bring goodness into what you put your energy into, what you put your effort into. To bring goodness into what you say to yourself and to others. To bring goodness into what you do. To bring positivity to your breath, to your meditations, to your intentions. Just letting yourself envisage, dedicate, decide to bring that goodness and awareness into every part of you. Lovingly, beautifully, wonderfully, happily, hilariously, playfully, excitedly, easily. And to finish the meditation, maybe you want to give yourself a hug. Maybe you want to bring your hands to your heart and have a bow. Maybe you want to have a little dance. Maybe you want to just sit and soak it up. Just finish the meditation in whichever way feels really nice for you right now. So I'm just going to be quiet for a little while. If anyone feels like sharing anything or asking anything, take your time. We'll just have some time to contemplate, think about our experience. For those of you on the live stream, people in the crowd here are sending out love emojis through the room. Love you guys. I'm just going to stand up so I can have a better view of everybody. People are sending love hearts across the temple. Look out, guys, you got love hearts coming all directions. I gotta get in on the love heart action. All right, midnight, we're going to just have a little discussion. Any questions, any comments? Then we'll finish with our dedication and move out to our social part of the evening.
I'm just spreading love. It was a beautiful session, beautiful presentation. Very calming.
Do you know one thing that I find amazing about meditation is that sometimes it's just so good, and like in our day-to-day mind, we like kind of forget how good it can be. And I was saying earlier, I encourage us all to meditate twice a day, and like having this bliss available more and more and more of the time. It's just a really wonderful thing. Hey, Mina, I think I cut you off a little bit. I'm sorry. Were you saying something else?
No, it's fine. No.
Wouldn't it be wild if everywhere we went in life, we heard what we said back? It'd be a lot easier to have mindful speech and notice what you've said all the time. Midnight, you should follow me around everywhere.
ATC for our own minds.
What's ATC?
Air traffic control. And you have to repeat everything back to them that they said to you.
That actually sounds like a very good practice. Consciously saying back each thought you've had and deciding whether you want to let that one land or tell it to dissolve into the nothingness. Before we chat too much, does anyone have anything they want to share from their meditation, or any questions or thoughts from it, or from the whole of today's session? We've got a thoughtful emoji. All right, another question for everybody. As I invited people to reflect upon today's session, what were some of the things you thought of? Solarpunk?
Yes, I do have one thing I was thinking of bringing up. I'm not sure if maybe it's just best for social time, but I did want to float the idea of a mindfulness game that people could play with each other and challenge each other with. It basically just involves if somebody says mindfulness or something similar to that. If you're not doing the little mudra, I think it's called the Dhyana mudra or whatever. The left hand symbolizes illusion, the right hand symbolizes reality. That's why you have the right hand above the left hand. If you're not doing the mudra at the right time, then you owe that person a soda or a cup of tea or something. And you can only claim maybe one soda a week or one such tea. But I wanted to get your thoughts. I thought you might have something amusing to say on that.
Well, I'm pretty sure soda and tea are not the healthiest drinks we could have. So perhaps a cup of water full of love, or a fruit salad. So yeah, I
It's
think
challenging because I was trying to think of something
yeah.
worthwhile. Most people don't. Most people want to play for high stakes. It's sort of hard to make a game out of it. But if
Oh
one
yeah.
could, it would be a very skillful, very useful game.
Well, you could have a kind of like truth or dare, so the other person gets to ask you for a dance or a guided meditation, or to see your most hilarious laugh, or but yeah, I mean, you mentioned the mudra, that might be something
Oh, that's
you
nice. Yes.
like, but yeah, along that theme of being playful with each other, of how to practice more mindfulness or practice other positive qualities, that's a wonderful idea. I've had some other ideas I'll share in a minute. I want to stick with your theme. So you were saying that you have an agreement with somebody, that you're playing the game, and at any time both of you can say mindfulness, and I don't think you're going to walk around with the mudra all day long. So is it?
No, you can't. You use the mudra the moment the person says mindfulness. But if you don't use the mudra fast enough, then you've just lost the bet, or you just lost and you owe them something.
Sounds fun. Yeah, I mean, not everybody's into mudras, so you could play that version with some people, or you could play that you've got to take one breath, and at some point in that breath, you have to have at least a glimpse of stillness.
Yes,
You
that
know,
would be a good response, actually. Instead of just using a mudra, you could do just an audible breath to let them know that you are practicing that breath of mindfulness at that moment, that you were not caught off guard.
and if someone gets too caught up in some reaction, and you say mindfulness, and they go to take the breath, but internally they're like, and if they're not able to like really give themselves just that glimpse of the stillness, then they have to do something funny or playful. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Baby, let's play that game.
Ah, thank you.
Oh, I
Yes.
just bumped her in the face. Sorry, baby. I should find a way to be mindful of the real world while I'm in virtual reality.
I guess that defeats the purpose.
Of being immersed in the virtual reality? Or what?
Sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that I really feel like I'm here in the temple with you guys. I love it. To anyone on the live stream, I thoroughly recommend if you get a chance to try VR and come into VR chat. It's so wild that I can be here with people around the world. That my friend who I haven't seen for 6 years, earlier today, we were high-fiving and hugging, and it felt just so joyous, like we were there together. It's great to have you here for this session this evening as well. And yeah, I love VR. As augmented reality gets more amazing, we can be in the temple at the same time as being in our own house. How the engineers are going to create their virtual world deeply being integrated with your actual world. I'm really looking forward to see how this evolves over the next decade. I think in a decade from now, it's going to be beyond what any of us are imagining. Another game I've thought of is, kids have like trading cards. Like when I was young, it was baseball cards, and now I think people actually, I don't know if Pokemon cards are still out of date, or if they. But yeah, there's these cards that people trade. I thought about having like enlightenment cards. So I'll trade you compassion for all beings for your unshakable peace, or I'll trade you my laughter card that I laugh with infinite happiness once a week for your card of breathing meditation once a day. I think that's a game.
Or maybe you can gain some of those cards through winning the mindfulness game.
Oh, that's a good idea. Lemon Wire, what did you say?
Oh no, I was just thinking I've heard of a similar project where it kind of teaches you, I guess, the spirituality of Buddhism through the context of, I guess, flavor text on trading cards.
All right, find it, bring it to the temple. Sorry if that sounded too demanding. It was meant to be funny. All right, guys, I just noticed the time.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah.
So we're going to do our closing dedication. And for those of you here on the live stream, we're going to make our way out, and you'll see us bowing to the enlightened being in the back of the room. Each of us does our own thing as we do that. You may remember the glimpses of the amazing moments you had today. Hi everybody who's just arrived. We're just doing our closing ceremony, so I invite you to make the most of these few minutes that we have together. So we're going to finish with our dedication, and as we leave, we're going to bow to the enlightened being at the back, and I invite you to find the enlightened being within you, or to imagine a world where everybody is mindful, and everyone is loving and kind, or to be grateful for all the people who have cultivated goodness over the years. Everything that we did tonight, I've picked up over 25 years, and these ideas have been cultivated over thousands of years and made their way to you. And, you could be grateful for every time someone's tried to intentionally cultivate goodness, and that you are also cultivating goodness that you can then pass on to others. So I invite everybody to stand for our dedication. The time that we took, cherish it, appreciate it, feel how important it is to have spent time in peace, thinking about practicing mindfulness, awareness, kindness. Cherish how beautiful peace can be. Patience, understanding. And may you cherish that you took this time to yourself. And each day, give yourself more time. And ultimately, we're working towards an enlightened world where the people you care about have peace, have love. And may each breath we take be guided by patience and power. May our whole life be inspired by a world of enlightenment for everybody. And may you step into that inspiration every day to wish that light onto others, to wish happiness and goodness for everybody, no matter what. And may you all be awesome. See the enlightened being within everyone. Every conversation, every moment, guided by love.
Why are you hiding? Like,
so the camera's looking at the enlightened being. Camera's following me.
You're cool.
I know. I get that. I get that a lot.
His